armed forces of our country has been facing deficits since then, and until now, it is still present. The AFP is the military force of our country, composed of the Navy, the Air Force, and the Army, and according to the 1987 Constitution, is responsible for upholding the sovereignty of the country, defending its territory against all enemies, and supporting its constitution. The AFP falls under the command of the President and is under the executive branch. And now, after 87 years of its creation, it has been subjected to reforms. But seriously, why is there a need for reforms in the AFP? The principal cause of why AFP is targeted for reforms is that it is deteriorating. Since the reign of the Marcos regime, corruption and patronage politics were underscored and abused in the field of the military. Another reason is this. Last year, the AFP has around 130,000 active service personnel. The Army ground force is estimated at 90,000 soldiers. The Air Force has an estimated 17,000 personnel only, while the Navy has around 25,000 members only. See, there is a domination of one branch within the AFP. Another reason is this. Looking at the AFP's annual allocation, the most significant portion of defense spending still goes to the Army, which accounts for almost half of the entire budget. And from here rises the issue of unequal budget distribution. According to the Department of Budget and Management, the Army received the bulk of defense funding in 2021 with an allocation of 96.8 billion pesos. The Navy and Air Force received 31.1 billion pesos and 29.8 billion pesos respectively. And not just that, there is also an unequal opportunity for all branches of the military to be represented at the upper echelons of command. During the Arroyo administration, Arroyo's cabinet was made up of retired army generals. And for the current president, Duterte is replicating Arroyo's political playbook, which is relying on retired army soldiers to form part of his cabinet. Now, we are going to tackle concisely the different dates considered to be significant in AFP reforms. When some of the militaries were influenced by Marcos, it promulgated violations of the honor of the military and has lost the sense of discipline, resulting to the continuous isolation and decay of the military organization. As a result, RAM was born in 1982. It was composed of graduates from the PMA. The RAM members strongly uphold the values of discipline and honor. They are the righteous one, while some of their colleagues were manipulated by Marcos Sr. and viewed as anti-people. The formation of the Reform the Armed Forces Movement, or RAM, is the commencement of reformations in the AFP, transpired by the corruption and patronage politics during the Marcos regime. The next significant year is 1991. In 1991, the 1947 Military Bases Agreement between the US and the Philippines expired and US military bases in the Philippines closed. Consequently, the approximately $200 million annual rentals of the US was no longer available to the AFP. This led to structural deficits in the Philippine defense budget and growing capability gaps. Anti-bases lawmakers argued that the continued US presence in the country undermined the Philippines' sovereignty, while others feared it could promote prostitution in the area. However, the Philippines and the US have engaged in joint military exercises with the ratification of the Visiting Forces Agreement in 1999. Moving forward, in 1995, the Philippine Congress authorized the AFP to convert some military bases to alternative civilian use to generate funds for capability upgrades and military modernization. Under Section 8 of RA 7227, or Bases Conversion and Development Act of 1992, the proceeds from any sale shall be used to finance the transfer of the AFP military camps and the construction of new camps, and the self-reliance and Modernization Program of the AFP, and the concessional and long-term housing loan assistance and livelihood assistance to AFP officers and enlisted men and their families, and the rehabilitation and expansion of the AFP's medical facilities, among others. Another significant event in the same year, RA number 7898, or named as Providing for the Modernization of the Armed Forces of the Philippines and for Other Purposes, was issued and signed by former President Ramos. Its objective is to develop its capability to uphold the sovereignty and territorial integrity of the Republic and to ensure the national territory from all forms of intrusion and encroachment, among others. Going next to another significant date, which is 1997, there was an economic recession fueled by the Asian financial crisis of 1997. None of the money authorized for the defense sector was provided through budget appropriation acts, and the funding for the AFP Modernization Act was halted and later neglected by successive administrations until the law expired in 2010. In March 2000, former President Estrada opted to wage war in Mindanao against Muslim separatist groups. The campaign may have been successful from a military viewpoint. However, many critics said the concentration of government military assets towards the Mindanao area siphoned off manpower and equipment from the Luzon and Visayas island groups, providing the Muslim separatist groups an opportunity to assert itself. 2012 comes another significant date for AFP reforms. RA number 7898 was amended by RA number 10349, also known as the Revised AFP Modernization Act. The AFP modernization is being implemented in three phases. Horizon 1, which was already done in 2012 to 2017. Horizon 2, which is yet to be done from 2018 to 2022, and Horizon 3, which will be implemented in 2023 to 2027. And recently, in 2018, President Duterte approved the Armed Forces Modernization Program's shopping list for Horizon 2. And currently, in January 2022, new assets arrive as AFP modernization continues. With its persistent democratic deficits, political scientist Clarita Carlos in her book, Democratic Deficits in the Philippines, presented selected recommendations from the David Commission and Feliciano Commission which have not been implemented but remain relevant to our times. The David Commission was formed in 1989 by RA number 6832 to recommend measures that would prevent the occurrence of coup d'etat attempts in the future. It was headed by Hilario G. David Jr., with distinguished personalities from academia and the private sector. On the other hand, the Feliciano Commission completed its work in 2003. The commission was headed by Florentino P. Feliciano. The David Commission recommended the following: administer a justice and rehabilitation program to military participants, and strengthen security measures on those under detention, and carry out speedy action on appeals over decision on AFP courts-martial, and implement a comprehensive program to provide timely rescue and medical assistance to troops wounded in combat, and remove or reassign officers of less than 100% loyalty from sensitive positions in the military hierarchy, that is to say, intelligence, operations, logistics, and training functions, and disband organizations not authorized by the military, among others. Meanwhile, the Feliciano Commission recommended the following: liquidate the AFP retirement and separation benefit system in an orderly manner and return the soldiers' contributions, and establish an AFP service and insurance system, and simplify AFP procurement procedures, and strike a balance between the commander's discretionary powers over the centrally managed funds and the amount of CMF in GHQ service or HQ hands, and strictly implement control measures over supplies, and set 10-year limits for AFP finance and procurement officers, among others. This time, we are going to tackle about the Philippine National Police. PNP is the agency administered and controlled by the National Police Commission and is part of the DILG. The reasons why PNP needs reforms are this: corruption, political interests, and unclear lines of authority. When it comes to corruption, there are widespread complaints about the so-called monopolized promotion system, allegedly controlled by police officials with the Mista mentality. Police officers who graduated from PMA hold important positions and ranks higher than their Philippine National Police Academy or PNPA counterpart. PNPA graduates claimed that they are not being treated equal by the PMA police officials. They had raised the issue many times, but nothing comes out of it. In the past, the PMA was able to recruit the best and the brightest high school senior students because of the prospect of joining either the military or police service. But then, in 1990, former President Corazon Aquino signed the RA number 6975 creating the PNP that is distinct from the Armed Forces of the Philippines since the newly minted police organization will be national in scope but civilian in character. The demilitarization of the police force is a legacy of the first Aquino presidency in response to abuses and other human rights violations committed by the police forces during martial law. RA 6975 made the PNP Academy into a premier institution for the training, human resource development, and continuing education of all police, fire, and jail personnel. Internal and external threats, PNPA graduates are trained to be public safety officers, working closely with communities, while PMA graduates are entrusted with the heavy burden of defending the flag and the country against internal and external threats. When it comes to political interests, election season is a particularly sensitive situation for the PNP. The Commission on Elections deputizes the PNP and the AFP for the orderly conduct of elections, with the primary role of maintaining peace and order in the polling places. Also, in recent years, there are incidents when a police official got involved in partisan politics. Hence, the DILG conducts reshuffling of local police directors every election. In addition, the statutory law that gives city and municipal chief executives the authority to deploy and employ territorial police forces is suspended during the election period. When it comes to unclear lines of authority, the PNP is under the DILG. Hence, it cannot escape the interference of LGUs. A study of the Asian Development Bank has shown that the PNP is vulnerable to the control of local officials, since under the Local Government Code, it authorizes the LGUs to supervise the day-to-day police operations. And not just that, LGUs play a recommendatory role in the recruitment of police officers. That is to say, local officials are the one who introduced the application of a candidate to the PNP. Furthermore, when it comes to monitoring PNP performance and serving as a forum for appeals from disciplinary actions, it is NAPOLCOM and not the ILG that is tasked to do it. Be it as it may, even the Supreme Court remains confused regarding the roles of the DILG, NAPOLCOM, and LGU officials in relation to PNP. Nevertheless, the confusion is subject to disciplinary proceedings and all of which hold hearings. For the PNP, the CPRM Consultants Incorporation recommended the following. First, remove negotiable and highly discretionary support from LGUs. Next, reintegrate authority to the PNP chief to recruit, appoint, and promote and discipline the police force without prejudice to an appropriate civilian review system, and to remove LGU authority over the internal administration of the police force. The politicization of the AFP has been manifested since the reign of Marcos Sr. Similarly, the politicization of the PNP has been brought about by the influence of local government units through financial support and recruitment recommendations. The challenge now to remove political pressure from the AFP and the PNP appears to be a simple problem but has become a deeply ingrained one. This is the end of my report. Thank you so much.